we had each,
Who financed the first showboat?
well, Harley Pete put up the money for the first showboat. He put up the money and we paid him back in 2 years. He furnished the money to build the showboat and start it. Harley Pete, that's George Pete's son. He's passed away about a year ago. His wife, I went to school with Merle Pete. That card up there, she sent me and congratulated me on my 90 years old. That's one of the birds right there. Merle Pete said that to me. She owns the packing house there. The boys run it. Merle, I guess, owns it. Always did, anyway. It was up in the summertime. He retired about 15 years ago, and she was, they got home in Florida, and down in Miami, Florida, they got a home up north at, trying to think of where, let's see, the name of the town.
How much did you make on the first year of showboat?
Well, I don't remember that, but...
Did very many people come, see?
Yeah, they had quite good attendance most of the time, considering the size of the town we had and everything to get it going, you know.
How many nights did it run? Was it just one night?
They run just the same as they run now.
Oh, really?
You know, we run right straight through the week, and then we used the Saturday. We used the Sunday to show in case of rain, why they carried on over that day. Yeah. And Monday night we had just like they do now, had the family night, and that was the cheapest night. And the other, we run it just same as we run it 10 days. You know. He was quite a fellow around town, but he liked Leo. He was quite a fellow. He worked for Ed Raymond there for a long while. He first worked for Barrison Hoteling in a shoe store, Leo Marset did. And then he bought the bakery, but that didn't work out very good for him, so he went to work at Ed Raymond's. He worked in Ed Raymond's until he passed away, until he retired, really. Yeah, he was an old timer too. One of the best fellows ever lived, that Leo was.
Never had a car.
Never owned a car. No, so that was a funny thing, he never owned a car. You know? I didn't see him yet walking to church. He used to. He was a good Christian, Leo Marset was. Yes, he was. A telephone office was across from a 10-cent livery barn there. Doc Tubbett had a livery barn, and right across there, they had the telephone office there at that time. And that was that's where it ended up, was in that building. The telephone office was in the building there.
Where was the livery barn?
Livery barn, that Doc Tubbett had the livery barn right back of Ed Raymond's, right back on that same street, a clothing store. There was a clothing store on the corner of Ed Raymond's clothing store. Greenbaum had that. And then there was a house in there. And then the 10-cent barn was right next to that. They called it the 10-cent livery barn. Anybody left the horses tied on the street at night for a while and hung around the saloon, let the horses stand out, they put them in the barn, put them in the 10-cent barn, you know. Yeah.
What about the shoe repair?
Huh?
Shoe repair in Chelsea?
Shoe repairs. Yeah, Al Sutter. Al Sutter was a cowboy in Chesapeake there. He done cowboy work there for years. Al Sutter did. He fixed shoes and he done the cowboy. And Lewis ended up, well, you remember when Lewis had it, his boy. But Al had it years ago at a shoe store. Not a shoe store, he had just a cowboy store. He had that when I burned down the Opera House. He had it when the Opera House burned down. He went over down the road where right next to the Argus office in there. And Lewis ended up there with a cowboy shop. Yeah.
What about the KC getting started?
Huh?
The Knights of Columbus.
Knights of Columbus? Well, Knights of Columbus wasn't started way later. That was over where, you see, they had that, where Doctor, what's his name? Chiropractor, McAlpin, Dr. McAlpin, was right in the building right over there. That's where the KC started. Yeah, that's when I went to the KC quite a bit then. See, I was in the KC 60 years. They got it 50 years up there, but it was 60 years in place of 50. Yeah, I went Saginaw KC. Down there and took the degrees. We had excursions run both ways then. Every Sunday there'd be an excursion from Saginaw, run south, one from Bay City from Bay City to Jackson, and then from Jackson to Bay City. They run both excursions both ways every Sunday. And I played ball a lot, so that my picture right there of the Banner team there, we used to play a lot of Sunday ball then, Yeah, I played shortstop there for the Global and the Banner Brewing Company and the Global Brewing Company, for 6 years. Before I was married, 14. Got married in 14, that ended the baseball business.
How long did you live in Chestnut?
Well, I lived there less than, I was born in Maple Grove on 57, 5 miles from Chesapeake, and my father retired and come to Chesapeake and had a home on Line Street, and I was 11 years old at that time, and what was you asking about?
How long you lived there?
Oh, well, it's from that time on the rest of my life until I ended up in the rest home over there, Saginaw Community Fair, till I retired. I had the double house back at the gas station. I lived there 17 years, and the house that I did live in, I sold, and Raymond tore it down and used it for his parking lot. And I lived on one side back at the Standard Oil Company station, and I finally sold that and lived in Ethan Farrell's apartment for 25 years. Mother and I lived there 25 years, right to the day before she passed away. Then I bachelor'd a year and a half before I went to the Saginaw Community Fair. But I retired, didn't want to go to a rest home, and I went there. I was there 2 years and a half. And then I I had pneumonia and put me in the hospital, and of course I couldn't go back. They didn't have, I had no bed patients there. That's how I happened to come here, and I've been here a little better than 2 years.